Stop! You stole my suitcase!
Read the tag. It is mine. Step that flag.
Sign it, and this ends now.
I will not sign a lie. Cooperate, or you stay here.
No one questions my client again.
Preserve every recording and every report.
The accusation came before Marcus Bennett had even taken 10 steps. Stop him. He stole my suitcase. The words cracked across the baggage claim hall at Chicago O Hare International Airport. Conversation stopped. Wheels slowed. Heads turned. Marcus froze with one hand wrapped around the handle of a silver Rimowa suitcase. For a moment, he wondered whether the woman was speaking about someone else. Then he saw her finger pointing directly at him. Patricia Whitmore stood beside the crowded carousel, her face tight with outrage. She was 57, elegantly dressed in a cream wool coat and polished leather boots. A gold bracelet flashed at her wrist as she pushed through the travelers between them. "That man has my luggage," she said. "Do not let him leave." Marcus felt the old familiar pressure settle behind his ribs. Not recognition. He had experienced that look before. The quick inspection of his dark skin, the expensive suitcase, the quiet conclusion that one of those things did not belong with the other. He took a slow breath. Around him, the airport moved in fragments. A child cried near the restrooms. A baggage alarm beeped somewhere behind the wall. Snow pressed against the tall terminal windows, turning the late afternoon light gray and cold. Marcus had been awake since before sunrise. He had spent the morning in Washington, meeting with federal cybersecurity officials about threats to public transportation systems. His flight to Chicago had been delayed twice. All he wanted was to collect his bag, call his daughter, and get home before the roads became dangerous. Instead, he was standing beneath fluorescent lights while strangers watched him like a suspect. "Ma'am," Marcus said, keeping his voice steady, "this is my suitcase." Patricia stopped several feet away. "No, it is not." Marcus looked down at the luggage tag attached to the handle. His name was printed clearly beneath the airline logo. Marcus Bennett, Chicago, Illinois. The claim number matched the receipt inside his coat pocket. He turned the tag toward her. "The name is right here." Patricia barely glanced at it. "Those tags can be changed." A man waiting beside the carousel lowered his headphone and stared. An older couple whispered to each other. No one stepped forward. Marcus noticed all of it. He also noticed the uncertainty flickering across Patricia's face. She had checked the tag. She had not asked the airline for help. She had simply seen him walking away with a suitcase that looked like hers, and decided she already understood the situation. Same size as silver. Same size, same brand. "There are hundreds of bags like me on the belt." Patricia turned toward the carousel. Empty suitcases moved past them, between black suitcases and cardboard boxes. Her mouth hardened. "It was right there a minute ago." "Did you see me take it from you?" "I saw you take it." "From the carousel," Marcus said. "Not from you." His answer was calm, but it carried Tovsket weight to make her hesitate. Only for a second. Then she raised her voice. "Security." Several travelers shifted away from Marcus as if the accusation itself had made him dangerous. That movement hurt more than he expected. He had spent most of his life learning how quickly dignity could be taken from a person. Sometimes it happened through violence, sometimes through poverty, sometimes through a single sentence spoken loudly enough in a public place. He remembered something his mother had told him when he was a boy in Detroit. "People may misunderstand you before they know you. Do not let their ignorance decide who you become." Marcus had built his life around that lesson. He had worked nights while attending college. He had borrowed money against a house his mother nearly lost. He had turned a small security consulting business into Bennett Shield Technologies, one of the most trusted cybersecurities. His company protected hospitals, banks, transit networks, and government systems. But none of that mattered in this moment. To Patricia, he was simply a black man holding something expensive. She stepped closer. "Excuse me." Marcus stared at her. "Excuse me. If it is yours, open it and prove it." Her tone was sharp, certain, the tone of someone accustomed to having her discomfort to become another person's responsibility. Marcus felt anger rise through him, hot and immediate. He could have told her who he was. He could have mentioned his company, his contracts, the security directors who returned his calls within minutes. He did not. A person should not need well-thought to be treated with basic to respect. I have already shown you the name tag, he said. That truth mattered more than name tag, he said. I am not opening my personal luggage for a stranger. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Only someone with something to hide would refuse. A few people murmured. Marcus heard the sentence settle over the crowd. It was a simple trick. Turn his boundaries into guilt. Turn his calm into defiance. Turn her suspicion into evidence. He placed the suitcase upright beside him. We can ask an airline employee to baggage receipt match this tag. Patricia shook her head. Patricia. Tor. You could walk out before they get here. I am standing right in front of you. Marcus looked at her carefully. No. No, he said, I stopped because you accused me of a crime in front of a room full of people. For the first time, Patricia looked around. She saw the faces, the phones, the attention. But embarrassment did not soften her. It pushed her deeper into the accusation. She lifted one hand and shouted again. Security. Over here. The two uniformed officers near the exit turned toward them. Marcus watched them begin walking across the baggage claim hall. One was young, broad-shouldered with his hand already resting near his belt. The other was older and moved with a tired substance that suggested he believed he had seen every kind of traveler and every kind of lie. Patricia exhaled in relief. Marcus' suitcase handle. His shoulders, the suitcase handle. His shoulders stayed level, but his heartbeat had changed. Not because he believed he had done anything wrong, because he understood that innocence did not always protect a person from humiliation. The younger officer looked first at Patricia. Mom, what happened? She pointed at Marcus without hesitation. He stole my suitcase. The officer turned toward Marcus. Sir, step away from the bag. The noise of the airport seemed to disappear. Marcus looked at the officer, then at Patricia, then at the luggage tag carrying his own name. He released the handle slowly. And in that small movement, surrounded by hundreds of strangers, the balance of power shifted against him. Marcus took one step back from the suitcase. The younger officer moved between him and the bag. His right hand stayed near his belt, not touching his weapon, but close enough for Marcus to notice. The older officer, Eric Coleman, faced Patricia. Ma'am, tell me exactly what you saw. Patricia drew in a quick breath. She looked relieved now. Protected, I was waiting for my luggage. That man grabbed my suitcase and started walking away. Eric glanced at the silver case. How do you know it belongs to you? It is a silver Rimowa, large size. I bought it in New York last year. Marcus watched it wait for more. Nothing came. No mentions of the luggage tag, no description of what was inside, no identifying mark. Daniel turned to Marcus. Sir, do you have identification? Yes. Slowly, Marcus reached inside his coat. Daniel stiffened. Keep your hands where I can see them. The command came fast and loud. Several people nearby turned their cameras fully toward Marcus and stopped in midair. My wallet is inside my coat, Marcus said. Daniel studied him for a moment, then nodded. Use 2 fingers. Move slowly. Marcus did exactly that. He pulled out the wallet, opened it, and held up his Illinois driver's license. Daniel took it. Marcus Bennett, he read. Is that your name on the bag? Yes. My baggage receipt is also in my pocket. Patricia folded her arms. A printed tag proves nothing. He could have switched it. Marcus looked at her. When would I have done that? I do not know how people like you operate. The words landed heavily. Eric looked at her. People like him? Patricia's face changed. Thieves, she said quickly. I meant thieves. Marcus heard the correction, so did everyone else. A woman standing near the carousel lowered her phone and shook her head. An elderly man beside her whispered. That is not what she meant. Daniel inspected the luggage tag. Then he compared it with Marcus's boarding pass and baggage receipt. The numbers matched, every one of them. Marcus watched these officers' eyes move across the documents. He expected the tension to ease. It did not. Daniel handed the boarding pass to Eric. We still need to verify ownership. You just verified it, Marcus said. Daniel's jaw tightened. Sir, do not tell me how to do my job. Marcus kept his voice low. I am not telling you how to do your job. I am asking why matching identification is not enough. Patricia stepped forward. Because it is my suitcase. Eric raised, stay where you are. She stopped, offended by the instruction. Daniel pointed toward a row of chairs near the wall. Sir, move over there while we sort this out. Marcus did not detain. The question changed the air. Daniel glanced at Eric. Daniel glanced at Eric. We are conducting an investigation. That was not my question. Daniel's face hardened. For now, yes, you are being detained. You are being detained. On what basis? A reported theft. The report is contradicted by the tag, the receipt, and my identification. Daniels stepped closer. You can cooperate or you can make this more difficult. Marcus had heard that sentence before, not always directed at him, sometimes in news reports. Sometimes from clients describing workplace investigations. Sometimes from employees who had been punished for asking reasonable questions. The sentence rarely meant cooperation. It meant surrender. Marcus looked at Daniel's face. The officer was not shouting. He probably believed he was being professional. That made the moment more troubling, not less. Bias did not always arrive with hatred. Sometimes it wore a uniform, followed procedure, and never questioned why one person's fear was treated as more credible than another person's evidence. Marcus walked toward the chairs. The wheels of the suitcase stayed silent behind him. A young airline employee approached. Her badge identified her as Hannah Price. She looked from Marcus to Patricia, then to the officers. Can I help verify the baggage information? Eric handed her the claim receipt. Hannah scanned the barcode with a handheld device. A soft beep sounded. She checked the screen. It came in on the checked under Marsheston National, she said. It's on the flight, Patricia. Patricia shook her head. There has to be a mistake. Hannah scanned the tag again. There is no mistake in the system. The name and claim, number match. Marcus waited. Daniel looked at Patricia. Do you have your baggage receipt? She opened her handbag and searched through folded papers, cosmetics, and a leather wallet. Her movements became sharper with each passing second. I had it earlier. Without the receipt, Hannah said, I can look up your reservation. Patricia gave her name. Hannah entered it. Her forehead creased. Your suitcase was marked for oversized baggage handling. That is impossible. It may have been redirected to the special items area. Patricia stared at her. Why would they do that? Sometimes bags are moved because of weight wheel damage, congestion on the main belt. Patricia looked toward the far end of the hall. Her confidence flickered again. Eric, notice, Mom. Did you actually see this man remove a bag that was in your possession? I told you. I saw him take it from the carousel. Did you check the tag before accusing him? Rest said nothing. Marcus stood beside the chairs while strangers watched. His documents had matched. The airline system had confirmed ownership. Still, Daniel remained close to him while Patricia stood free with her handbag over her shoulder. Hannah spoke quietly. The bag belongs to Mr. Bennett. Hannah spoke tense. Daniel glanced at her. We need to inspect the contents. Marcus looked at him. No. Daniel blinked. What did you say? I said no. You have my identification. You have my receipt. The airline confirmed the bag is mine. You do not have my consent to search it. Patricia let out a bitter laugh. See? He is hiding something. Marcus turned toward her. Privacy is not evidence of guilt. Then he faced the officers again. Am I under arrest? No, Eric said. Then I want to leave. Daniel stepped into his path. You are not free to leave yet. The words were quiet, final. Marcus felt every eye in the room settle on him again. Across the baggage hall, a public announcement echoed from the ceiling. A delayed flight, a gate change. Ordinary life continued all with them, but for Marcus, the line had been crossed. This was no longer confusion over a suitcase. This was power being used without enough reason. He reached slowly toward his wrist and pressed the emergency contact button on his watch. Daniel noticed the movement. What are you doing? Contacting my attorney. For the first time, uncertainty entered the officer's face. Marcus met his eyes, and somewhere beyond the terminal walls, the first alert reached the legal team of a man no one in that room had bothered to understand. Daniel Brooks looked at the watch on Marcus's wrist as if it were another threat he had not anticipated. Marcus lowered his arm. My hands have been visible the entire time. The officer did not answer. He reached for the suitcase handle and pulled it toward himself. Marcus stepped forward. Do not open that bag. Daniel's Coleman moved between them. Eric Twisim. His face showed less anger than concern now. He had seen the airline employee confirm the tag. He had heard Patricia change her wording. He knew the facts were moving in one direction while the officers were moving in another. But stopping a bad decision required more than noticing it. It required courage. Eric looked at Daniel. Maybe we should wait for a supervisor. Daniel's eyes remained on Marcus. We have a theft and a subject refusing a basic inspection. He is refusing identification, Eric said. He provided everything. Patricia stepped closer again. Why are we wasting time? Just open it. Hannah Price turned toward her. Mom, the system confirms the suitcase belongs to Sister Bennett. Patricia's cheeks flushed. Systems make mistakes. So do people, Hannah said. The sentence was quiet, but it cut through the noise. Patricia stared at her. Hannah immediately looked down at her scanner. She was young. She needed the job. She knew how quickly a customer complaint could reach a manager. Still, she did not take back what she had said. Marcus noticed small acts of decencies most when they carried a cost. Daniel unzipped the outer pocket of the suitcase. Marcus's voice changed. Officer Brooks, I do not consent to any search. Daniel stopped for half a second. Then he continued. The zipper sounded unusually loud in the baggage hall. Metal teeth, separatings, fabric pulling, a boundary breaking. Several travelers lifted their phones high. An older black woman stood near the carousel with one hand pressed to her chest. Her expression held a pain deeper than surprise. She had seen scenes like this before. Maybe not in this airport. Maybe not with this suitcase, but she knew the shape of them. Marcus looked at Eric. You heard me refuse consent. Eric's mouth tightened. Sir, we are trying to resolve the situation. It was already resolved. Daniel reached inside the pocket and removed a leather folder. He opened it. Inside were printed travel documents, a notebook, and several business cards. Daniel read one. Marcus Bennett, Founder Chief Executive Officer, Bennett Shield Technologies. His eyes lifted. The name meant something to him, but he could not place it. Patricia leaned slightly forward. What is it? Daniel ignored her and looked through the folder again. Marcus felt anger moving beneath his calm. Not the wild kind. Not the kind that clouded judgment. This anger was colder, useful. It forced him to remember details. The exact time, the officer's words, the location of every witness, the moment Daniel opened the bag after consent had been denied. Marcus had spent decades teaching executives that a crisis revealed the true character of an organization. Policies, training mattered, but in the critical moment, culture decided what people actually did. The same was true here. The officers had evidence. They had options. They chose suspicion. Daniel closed the folder. What kind of work do you do? Marcus stared at him. That has nothing to do with ownership of my suitcase. Just answer the question. Cybersecurity. For who? Private companies, hospitals, transportation agencies, government clients. Patricia gave a small, disbelieving laugh. Of course he does. Marcus turned his eyes toward her. What exactly is that supposed to mean? She shifted her weight. Nothing. Say what you meant. Patricia looked toward the officers. Why is he interrogating me? Marcus answered before they could. Because you accused me of theft without checking a single fact. I made an honest mistake. No, an honest mistake that begins with a question. You began with a verdict. The crowd became still. Patricia's eyes hardened. You were walking away with a bag that looked exactly like mine. That is not evidence. I felt threatened. Marcus almost laughed, but there was nothing funny in the moment. I never approached you. I never raised my voice. I never touched you. You followed me. Patricia looked at Daniel. Do you hear how aggressive he is being? Marcus stopped speaking. There it was. Calm had become suspicious. Questions had become resistance. Truth had become aggression. Eric saw it too. His gaze dropped for a moment. Then a radio crackled on Daniel's shoulder. Unit 12, supervisor requested at baggage claim. Possible property dispute. Daniel pressed the button. We have one detained subject, possible stolen luggage, requesting interview room access. Hannah looked up quickly. The luggage is not stolen. Daniel turned toward her. We will determine that. You already did. His expression sharpened. Mom, return to your assigned station. Hannah hesitated. Then she looked at Marcus. I am sorry. The apology was barely above a whisper. It was not hers to give, yet it was the first one he had received. Marcus nodded the truth. Daniel zipped the suitcase closed. You are coming with us. Marcus looked at him. Am I under arrest now? No. Then why am I being moved? Eric stepped closer, speaking in a lower voice. Sir, it will be easier if you cooperate. Marcus studied him. Easier for whom? Eric had no answer. Daniel reached for Marcus's elbow. Marcus pulled his act before contact was made. Do not touch me unless you are placing me under arrest. The movement was small, but Daniel reacted immediately. Turn around. They him hard. The crowd gasped. Marcus did not turn. Daniel moved closer. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Eric stepped between them. Hold on. He looked at Daniel, then at the phones, recording them. We do not need to cuff him. He is refusing instructions. He is asking whether he is under arrest. Daniel's face was red now. Marcus could see the struggle inside him. The officer had committed himself to a version of events. Each new fact threatened not only his decision, but his authority. Backing down now would mean admitting that the situation had been mishandled. Some people protected their pride more fiercely than they protected the truth. A supervisor appeared at the edge of the crowd. Laura Mitchell walked quickly toward them in a dark security uniform. Her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She was 49, composed, experienced, and visibly irritated by the attention gathering around her officers. What is going on? Daniel spoke first. Suspected baggage theft. Subject refuses search and instructions. Hannah stepped forward. The bag is registered to him. Laura looked at Marcus, then at Patricia, then at the suitcase. She did not ask why the search had in receipt. She did not ask why the search had continued. She looked at the crowd. Then she made her decision. Take him to the interview room. Marcus felt the words settle over him, not because they wanted the scene out of public view, because the department wanted the scene out of public view. Laura turned to Patricia. Ma'am, you can wait here. Marcus looked directly at her. No. If I am being detained over her accusation, she stays as available for questioning. Laura's eyes narrowed. You do not set the procedure, and you do not get to hide what is happening. For the first time, her composure cracked. Officer Brooks, escort him now. Daniel reached for Marcus again. This time, Marcus did not pull away. He lifted his chin and looked toward the people recording. My name is Marcus Bennett. The airline confirmed that the bag is mine. I have not consented to a search, and I am being detained without evidence. Laura stepped in front of him. That is enough, but it was already too late. The witnesses had heard him, the cameras were rolling, and across the city, an emergency message had reached Rebecca Dawson, the attorney, who knew exactly how much power Marcus Bennett carried, and exactly what happened when that power was finally forced to defend itself. The interview room was smaller than Marcus expected. No windows, no clock. Just a metal table, 4 plastic chairs, and a camera mounted high in one corner. The fluorescent light above him gave off a faint electrical hum. Daniel Brooks placed the suitcase against the wall. Eric Coleman stood near the door. Laura Mitchell remained in the hallway, speaking into her radio. Marcus sat without being asked, not because they had authority over him, because standing would give Daniel another excuse to describe him as uncooperative. He placed both hands flat on the table, visible still. Controlled. Daniel closed the door. For several seconds, no one spoke. Marcus could hear muffled airport announcements beyond the wall. A flight to Dallas was boarding. A child laughed somewhere in the corridor. Life continued just a few feet away, while inside the room, the facts were being stripped of their meaning. Daniel pulled out a chair. Let us start over. Marcus looked at him. We already started. You ignored the evidence. This will go faster if you stop arguing. I am not arguing. I am documenting. Eric shifted near the door. Daniel opened a form on a tablet. State your full name. You have my license. I need you to state it. Marcus waited. Marcus Elijah Bennett. Date of birth? You have that too. Daniel looked up. Are you refusing to answer, sir? Marcus studied the man across from him. Daniel was not cruel in the way stories often made men cruel. He did not insult him openly. Daniel believed that was what made it feel real. Daniel proved innocence. Proceed. He had probably been trained to take charge before without uncertainty could become danger. But Marcus gave his date of birth. Daniel entered it. Marcus gave his date of birth. Washington. Purpose of travel. Business. What kind of business? Marcus leaned back slightly. You asked that already. I am asking again. I own a cybersecurity company. Daniel paused. Bennett Shield Technologies? Yes. Eric looked toward Marcus. The company that handled the hospital ransomware attack last year? Marcus met his eyes. We helped contain it. Eric's posture changed almost imperceptibly. Daniel noticed that does not affect this investigation. Marcus nodded. Correct. It should not. The answer unsettled Daniel. Marcus continued. My position should not earn me better treatment. The evidence should have earned me fair treatment from the beginning. Eric looked down. For the first time, shame entered the room. It did not announce itself. Fulsett arrived in the silence between two men who both understood that Marcus was right. Daniel tapped the tablet. Did you know Patricia Whitmore before today? No. Did you speak with her before taking the suitcase? No. Did you see her near the suitcase? I saw many people near the carousels. Why did you choose that suitcase? Because it was mine. Daniel's jaw tightened. How did you identify it? By the luggage tag, the damaged wheel cover, and the blue security ribbon attached beneath the handle. Daniel turned toward the bag. A blue ribbon was tied beneath the handle. Sat it. Marcus had. There was also a narrow scrape along the right corner from a trip to Atlanta 3 months earlier. Inside the front pocket, a business card with his daughter's handwriting. On the back, call me when you land, Dad. Every detail connected the suitcase to a life. His life. Daniel stood and inspected out the wheel cover. Eric watched him. That should settle it, he said. Daniel straightened. We still have to complete the complaint review. Marcus looked at him. What complaint remains? Daniel did not answer immediately. That was when Laura entered. She carried Marcus's phone in one hand and a printed incident form in the other. Your phone will remain secured until we finish. Marcus's eyes moved to it. On what legal basis? For officer safety and evidence of preservations of what crime? Laura trying to shelf behind that. No, Marcus said. You are trying to justify a decision already made. Laura pelted out the chair opposite him. Mr. Bennett, I understand you are upset, do you? Yes. Then explain what I did that justified being brought into this room. Laura folded her hands. A passenger reported stolen property. You refused an inspection and challenged lawful instructions. The airline confirmed the property was mine. The complainant disagreed. Facts are not decided by who disagrees the loudest. Laura's expression hardened. Marcus could see her calculation. She was no longer focused on the suitcase. She was focused on institutional exposure. The witnesses, the phones, the recorded search, the public statement Marcus had made before being removed. She pushed the incident form across the table. We can resolve this quickly. Sign here. It confirms that you voluntarily accompanied officers while the ownership issue was reviewed. Marcus read the page. The language was careful. Voluntarily cooperated. Temporary investigative contact. No force used. No property search without authorization. He looked up slowly. This is false. Laura's voice stayed calm. It is standard wording. You searched my suitcase after I refused consent. A limited inspection was conducted for identification purposes. You removed documents from inside it. Daniel shifted in his chair. Laura glanced at him, then back at Marcus. Sign the form and you will be free to go. Marcus felt something cold move through him. There it was. Not a request for truth, a trait. His signature in exchange for his freedom. He pushed the form back. No. Laura's eyes narrowed. I have. You may miss your transportation home. That is not a lawful reason to sign a false statement. Laura leaned closer. Mr. Bennett, no one here wants this to become bigger than it is. Marcus held her gaze. It became bigger the moment your officers decided that a woman's suspicion mattered more than my proof. Fabram went silent. Even Tangel stopped moving. Marcus lowered his voice. You had my identification, my receipt, the airline record, a visible tag, a unique mark on the bag. Still, I was the one removed from public view. Laura sat back. This is not about race. Marcus did not blink. I did not say it was. The answer struck harder than an accusation. Laura looked away first. Outside the room, footsteps approached quickly. More than one person. Confident. Unhurried. A knock sounded. Laura stood. We are in the middle of an interview. A woman's voice answered from the hallway. Then the interview is over. The door opened before Laura could respond. Rebecca Dawson entered in a charcoal suit carrying a leather case. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were not. Behind her stood Anthony Carter, a civil rights attorney with silver at his temples, and an airport operations executive Marcus recognized immediately. Rebecca looked at Marcus. Are you injured? No. Were you searched? My property was. Did you consent? No. She turned toward Laura. No one asks him another question. Laura stood straight. This is a restricted area. Rebecca placed her bar card and identification on the table. I am his attorney. You are holding my client without probable cause. After ownership of the property was confirmed by your own airline representative. Daniel rose. We followed procedure, then preserved every second of video showing that procedure. The air changed. Laura's face lost color. Rebecca reached for the false incident form and read it once. Then she looked at Marcus. Did they ask you to sign this in exchange for leaving? Yes. Rebecca placed the paper back on the table with careful precision. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the airport executive looked at the business card Daniel had left beside the tablet. His eyes widened. He looked at Marcus again. Mr. Bennett? Marcus recognized the fear in his voice. Not fear of a wealthy man. Fear of consequence. Bennett Shield was scheduled to begin a major security audit of the airport network the following month. The contract was worth millions. More important, Marcus's team had direct reporting access to federal transportation officials. The executive turned to Laura. Release his phone. Release his property now. Laura did not move. Rebecca stepped closer and preserved the body camera footage, hallway video, baggage claim recordings, radio traffic access logs, and every draft of this incident report. Her voice stayed level. If one file disappears, this becomes much worse. Marcus remained seated. For the first time since Patricia had pointed at him, everyone in the room was listening. Not because he had suddenly become innocent. He had been innocent all along. They were listening because they had finally discovered he had the power to make them answer for ignoring it. Laura Mitchell returned Marcus's phone without meeting his eyes. The device felt cold in his hand. Rebecca Dawson stood beside him while he checked the screen. 7 missed calls, 4 messages from his daughter, 2 alerts from his executive assistant, 1 encrypted notification confirming that Bennett Shield's legal response team had been activated. Marcus did not open any of them, not yet. Across the table, the airport executive introduced himself as Michael Grant, Vice President of Operations. He was in his early 50s, clean-cut, careful, and visibly shaken by how quickly the situation had escaped his control. Mr. Bennett, he said, I want to apologize for the confusion. Rebecca turned toward him. Confusion. Michael swallowed. For the way this was handled by whom? Anthony Carter asked. Michael glanced at Laura. We need time to review the facts, said. The facts are in this room. Your staff confirmed the suitcase belonged to him. Your officer searched it after consent was refused. Your supervisor then offered him a false statement to sign. Laura crossed her arms. That is not what happened. Marcus looked at her. You told me I could leave if I signed it, I said. The matter could be resolved. Those are not the same words, but they carry the same threat. Laura's mouth tightened. Before she could answer, a radio call came through to Daniel Brooks's shoulder unit. The voice was faint but clear. Supervisor Baggage Services located the complainant's suitcase at oversized pickup. Silver hard shell bag. Passenger name Patricia Whitmore. No one moved. The room seemed to shrink around the sound. Daniel looked at Laura. Eric Coleman closed his eyes for half a second. Michael Grant reached toward the radio. Repeat that. The dispatcher spoke again. Patricia Whitmore's bag has been located at the oversized baggage counter. Tag and passenger record confirmed. Marcus watched the truth arrive. It did not crash into the room. It entered quietly. A voice over a radio. A verified tag. A suitcase sitting exactly where the airline system had said it would be. Laura looked at the false incident form on the table. Daniel looked at the floor. Eric Taller looked at Marcus. Patricia's luggage was never stolen, only an accusation. Rebecca broke the silence. My client is leaving now. Michael nodded immediately. Of course, Laura spoke before he could move. We still need to close the incident report. Anthony stared at her, then close it with the truth. Laura's face hardened. There are procedures. There were procedures 10 minutes ago, Rebecca said. You ignored the ones that protected him. Do not hide behind them now. Marcus stood. His legs were stiff from sitting, but his posture remained steady. He picked up his coat and looked toward the silver suitcase against the wall. Daniel moved to retrieve it. Marcus raised one hand. Do not touch it. Daniel stopped. The command was not loud. It did not need to be. Marcus walked across the room and took the handle himself. For the first time since the accusation, no one told him where to stand. No one ordered him to move slowly. No one demanded that he prove the bag belonged to him. The proof had never changed. Only their willingness to accept it had. When the door opened, the hallway outside was crowded. Several airport employees stood near the wall. 2 uniformed supervisors had arrived. Hannah Price waited farther down the corridor, still holding her scanner. Her face showed relief when she saw Marcus walking freely. Patricia Whitmore stood near the baggage office with her own silver suitcase beside her. The 2 bags were similar, but not identical. Hers had a red leather tag. Her case was Lou Ribbon's. Her case was newer. His bore a long scrape across one corner. The differences were obvious now that anyone had bothered to look. Patricia saw Marcus. Her shoulders dropped. For a moment, shame crossed her face, real shame, the kind that could have opened a door to honesty. Then she looked at the lawyers around him, the airport executive, the officer standing silent. Her shame became fear. "Marcus stopped my bagway," she said. Marcus gripped several at the handle. "It was sent to the wrong area." "Smarkosinang." Marcus said nothing. She glanced at the phone still held by travelers near the entrance. This whole thing was a misunderstanding. But Marcus gently raised his hand. He wanted to hear Patricia for herself. She looked at him. "I suppose I owe you an apology, you suppose?" Her lips pressed together. "I was upset. My luggage was missing." Marcus's voice remained calm. "Your luggage was delayed. I did not know that. You also did not know that mine was stolen." Patricia looked toward Michael Grant. "Can I leave now?" Marcus watched her search for rescue from the same authority she had used again. No one answered. He took one step closer. "Why did you assume the bag was yours, after I showed you my name on the tag?" Patricia shifted her weight. "They looked alike. That is not what I asked." Her eyes moved around the hallway. "I made a mistake. You made several choices." The words landed harder than anger would have. "You chose not to check the tag. You chose not to ask an employee. You chose to call me a thief in front of strangers. Then, when the evidence proved the bag was mine, you continued." Patricia's face reddened. "I felt threatened." Marcus looked at her carefully. "By what?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The older black woman from the baggage carousel had followed the group into the hallway. She stood with her coat folded over one arm. Her eyes never left Patricia. Marcus saw her. He also saw Hannah, Eric, Daniel. People who had witnessed different parts of the same harm. Some had caused it. Some had enabled it. Some had tried quietly to resist it. Marcus lowered his voice. "A missing suitcase made you anxious, I understand that. But anxiety does not give anyone the right to take dignity away from another person." Patricia looked down. For the first time, she seemed smaller. Not defeated. Exposed. Marcus continued. "You were afraid of losing property. I was forced to wonder whether I would lose my freedom because you refused to see me as a human being before you saw me as a suspect." The hallway fell silent. Patricia's eyes became wet, but Marcus felt no victory in it. Pain did not automatically create understanding. Consequences might. Reflection might. Truth, if a person was brave enough to face it, might. Michael Grant cleared his throat. "Mr. Bennett, we can arrange private transportation home." Marcus turned toward him. "That will not be necessary. We would also like to discuss some opportunity through counsel." Michael nodded slowly. Marcus looked toward Hannah. "Thank you for speaking up." She gave a small, unsteady smile. "I should have done more. You did more than most people in that room." Eric's. Marcus faced him. Eric removed his cap. "I am sorry." Daniel looked at him in surprise. Eric continued. "I saw the documents match. I knew this had gone too far. I should have stopped it sooner." Marcus studied his face. The apology did not erase the harm, but it mattered because the failure, that is where responsibility starts, Marcus said. Dana remained silent. Laura did too. Rebecca guided Marcus toward the exit. Behind them, Patricia stood beside the suitcase that had never been stolen. Ahead of them, cameras waited. Questions waited. Consequences waited. Marcus tightened his grip on the handle and walked forward. He had been proven innocent, but innocence was no longer the issue. The real question was how many people without attorneys, influence, or power had entered rooms like that one and never been heard. By the time Marcus reached the public concourse, the first video had already been posted online. A traveler had captured the moment Daniel ordered him away from the suitcase. Another had recorded Patricia calling him a thief. A third video showed Hannah confirming that the baggage tag matched Marcus's records while the officers continued to detain him. The clips were spreading fast. Rebecca checked her phone as they walked. "Do not speak to the media yet," she said. Marcus kept his eyes forward. "I was not planning to." "Good. Right now, every word matters." Anthony walked on Marcus's other side. His pace was steady, but his attention moved constantly. Cameras, airport personnel, security officers, witnesses who might disappear once they reached the parking garage. He stopped near a bank of windows overlooking the snow-covered runway. "We need names before anyone leaves." Rebecca nodded. She turned to a paralegal who had arrived with them. "Get contact information from every witness willing to speak. Start with the airline employee and the woman who recorded the search. Ask them to preserve the original files. No editing. No posting additional commentary." The paralegal hurried back toward baggage claim. Marcus looked through the glass. A plane moved slowly across the white runway, its lights glowing through the falling snow. His phone vibrated again. This time, the name on the screen made him answer. Danielle Bennett, his daughter. Marcus stepped away from the others. "Hi, sweetheart, Dad, where are you?" Her voice was tight. "At the airport. I know that. Someone sent me a video." Marcus closed his eyes. Danielle was 26, a public school counselor on the South Side. She spent her days helping children manage fear, anger, and grief. But in that moment, she sounded like the little girl who used to wait at the window whenever he traveled. "Are you safe?" she asked. "I am safe. Did they arrest you?" "No." "Did they hurt you?" "No." He paused. "They searched my bag and held me for questioning. Rebecca is here now." Danielle breathed out, but the fear did not leave her voice. "Why did they take you away when your name was on the suitcase?" Marcus looked down at the floor. There was no answer that could comfort her without insulting the truth, because they trusted an accusation more than the evidence. Silence. Then Danielle spoke more softly. "Was it because you are black?" Marcus looked back toward the security hallway. He saw Daniel standing near the doorway, Lorem, both speaking with Michael Grant. "I cannot tell you what was in every person's heart," Marcus said. "But I can tell you they gave me less benefit of the doubt than they gave her." Danielle began to cry, not loudly. That made it worse. Marcus lowered his voice. "Listen to me. I am coming home. You always tell me to stay calm and follow instructions." I did, and it still happened. Marcus felt the weight of those words. Parents taught their children how to survive unfair systems. Be respectful. Keep your hands visible. Do not raise your voice. Explain everything clearly. But perfect behavior was not armor, sometimes only made the injustice easier to document. "I know," he said. Marcus looked at Rebecca and Anthony. "I am going to make sure the truth is recorded." "That is not what I asked." He knew what she meant. Would he let the airport apologize quietly? Would he accept money and sign a confidentiality agreement? Would he move on because fighting would be exhausting? Marcus had made those choices before. Not about himself, but in corporate disputes. He understood controlled damage. This was different. "I am not going to let them bury it," he said.
Danielle became quiet.
Good. Became quiet. The word was firm. Proud, afraid, all at once. Marcus promised to call her again soon, then ended the call. When he turned around, Rebecca was watching him. She heard? Rebecca's expression softened. "So are you?" Marcus almost denied it. Then he stopped him. Healing did not begin with pretending. "Yes," he said. "I am. Anthony, you understand. Fear does not make you weak. It means you understand what could have happened." Marcus looked toward the baggage office. "What happens next?" Rebecca opened her leather case and removed a yellow legal pad. "First, we send preservation notices. Airport security, the airline, the baggage contractor, the police unit assigned to the terminal. We request video, radio traffic, access records, reports, drafts, and internal messages." Anthony continued. "Then we identify who had authority at each stage, who knew the best was yours, who approved the search, who ordered the detention, who wrote that form." Marcus nodded. "And Patricia? She may face a civil claim," Anthony said. "But the larger issue is the institution. Her accusation should have been tested. Instead, it was treated as fact." A man in a Navy overcoat approached them. He introduced himself as Stephen Ward, General Counsel for the Airport Authority. He was polite, controlled, and breathing slightly faster than he wanted anyone to notice. Mr. Bennett, I am deeply sorry about today's incident. Marcus said nothing. Stephen glanced at Rebecca. We would like to move this discussion to a private conference room. Rebecca folded her arms. Why? To protect Mr. Bennett's privacy. Anthony gave a humorless smile. Your people removed him from public view once already. Stephen's face tightened. That is not what I meant. Marcus stepped forward. Then say what you mean. Stephen looked at him. We want to understand what happened and find a reasonable solution. The word reasonable lingered in the air. Marcus had heard it in boardrooms. It often meant quiet, limited, convenient. He looked at the travelers moving around them. Older couples pulling carry-on bags, families searching for rides, workers returning home after long shifts. Any one of them could have been accused. Most would not have a legal team waiting. What would the reasonable solution have been if I, the chief executive officer of a company, did not answer? Marcus depends on. Stephen did continued. Would your vice president have entered that room? Would your counsel be standing here? Would anyone have ordered my phone returned? Stephen lowered his voice. Your position is not why we are taking this seriously. Marcus met his eyes. Then why did everything change when you learned it? The question struck cleanly. Rebecca watched Stephen carefully. Anthony watched the security cameras above them. Marcus watched the man's face. Stephen finally spoke. The situation was mishandled. That is a beginning, Marcus said. Not a solution. Michael Grant approached from the hallway with Laura behind him. Daniel and Eric followed several steps back. Michael held a folder. We have conducted a preliminary review. Rebecca looked at her watch. In 12 minutes? Michael ignored the question. Officer Coleman has provided a statement confirming that the baggage information matched Mr. Bennett before he was taken to the interview room. Laura turned sharply toward Eric. You filed a statement? Eric looked at Marcus. I filed the truth. Daniel's face went pale. Laura stepped closer to Eric.
You violated chain of command.
No, Eric said. I refuse to violate the record. The words echoed through the concourse. Marcus saw something shift in the older officer. He was still afraid. His career was still at risk. But shame had become responsibility. Michael opened the folder. Pending a full investigation, Officer Brooks and Supervisor Mitchell are being placed on administrative leave. Laura stared at him. You cannot do this in public. Michael's voice hardened. You should have thought about that before ordering a verified passenger into a private room. Daniel looked toward Marcus. His lips parted, but no apology came. Rebecca took the folder from Michael and scanned the page. This does not resolve the unlawful search or detention. Marcus looked at Laura. She had spent the last hour using procedure as a shield. Now procedure was being used against her. But Marcus felt no satisfaction. Accountability was not revenge. It was the difficult work of preventing harm from becoming normal. Send to Rebecca. All of them? Everyone. Stephen Ward stepped forward. Mr. Bennett, before this escalates further, perhaps we can discuss terms. Marcus looked at him. It already escalated. He pointed toward the interview corridor. It escalated when proof was treated as less important than prejudice. Then he looked at the cameras, the witnesses, and the officials now gathering around him. What happens next will not be private. And, for the first time that day, the people in power understood that Marcus Bennett was not asking for permission. The preservation notices went out before Marcus left the airport. Rebecca sent them from her phone while standing beneath the departure board. Each notice was precise. No deletion, no alteration, no routine overriding. Every camera angle, radio transmission, incident report, text message, email, access log, and body-worn recording connected to the detention had to be preserved. Anthony watched the messages leave one by one. Airport authority, security contractor, airline operations, baggage services, Chicago police assigned to the terminal. By the time the final notice was delivered, the people responsible they had not been non-warned. Stephen Ward stood a few feet away, speaking quietly with Michael Grant. Their faces were controlled, but their movements were not. Michael kept rubbing his thumb along the edge of his folder. Stephen checked his phone every few seconds. Not the danger of a stolen suitcase. Marcus pulled on his coat. Rebecca looked at him. We should get you out of here. He nodded, but his body did not pick the pickup lanes. Through the glass doors, snow swept across the caged noon. Drivers hurried beneath the covered walk. Travelers heard beneath, dragging bags through slush. Marks felt suddenly exhausted. The anger was still there. So was the clarity. He had stayed calm. He had shown proof. And still, strangers had been able to take control of his body, his property, and his time. That knowledge settled deep. Rebecca noticed the change in his face. What is it? Marcus used back toward the baggage claim corridor. I keep thinking about the people who never get this moment. What moment? The moment when someone with authority finally says they were wrong. Anthony stepped closer. Most people do not get it. You have handled cases like this before. Too many. What happens to them? Anthony did not answer quickly. Some walk away because they cannot afford years of litigation. Some are too embarrassed to tell their families. Some convince themselves it was not serious enough to fight. He paused. And some stop traveling unless they have no choice. Marcus stared through the glass. A person could carry an injury no one else could see. A tightening in the chest at a check, a fear of asking questions, a habit of keeping receipts long after they were needed. Humiliation could become part of the body. It could change how someone entered a room. That was why the harm was larger than one afternoon. Rebecca touched his arm. We can talk about the broader case tomorrow. Tonight you go home. Marcus finally nodded. As they moved toward the exit, Hannah Price hurried after them. Mr. Bennett. Marcus turned. She was breathing hard, her scanner still clipped to her belt. I need to tell you something. Rebecca's attention sharpened. What is it? Hannah glanced toward the airport offices. When I scanned your tag, the system showed your name immediately. Officer Brooks saw the screen, so did Supervisor Mitchell. Marcus felt the cold air press through the opening doors. Are you certain? Yes. Did either of them ask you to change what you wrote? Hannah swallowed. Laura told me not to include the time of the scan in my statement. She said it could create confusion. Rebecca took out her phone. May I record what you just said? Hannah looked frightened. Will I lose my job? Anthony answered gently. I cannot promise what your employer will do, but retaliation against a witness can create serious legal consequences. Hannah looked at Marcus. He saw how young she seemed now. Not careless, not weak, just afraid of being punished for telling the truth. Marcus lowered his voice. You do not owe me your career. Her eyes filled. But if I stay quiet, I become part of it. The sentence stopped him. Hannah had reached the same place Eric had reached, the place where silence was no longer neutral. Rebecca recording after Hannah gave permission. Hannah described the scan. The matching claimed the display. Laura arriving moments later. The instruction to leave the exact time out of her written report. When she finished, her hands were shaking. Marcus said, thank you. Hannah looked down. I should have spoken sooner. You spoke when it mattered. She wiped one eye quickly. My father always told me that character is what you do when telling the truth costs you something. Marcus gave her a small nod. Your father was right. Behind them, Stephen Ward had stopped talking. He had heard enough. He walked toward Laura, who stood near the security corridor with Daniel. Their conversation became tense almost immediately. Laura shook her head. Daniel looked toward Hannah, then toward Marcus. His face changed, not remorse. Alarm. Rebecca ended the recording. That statement changes the case. How? It suggests they knew the bag was yours before they took you into the room. Anthony's voice was low, and if Laura told a witness to remove the timing, it may show an attempt to shape the record after the fact. Marcus looked at Laura. She was speaking faster now. One hand moved sharply through the affair. Stephen remained still, listening with the expression of a lawyer measuring every word. Michael Grant joined them. Then Eric Coleman approached from the other side. He held a small black device, his body camera. Laura looked at it and went pale. Eric stopped in front of Michael. I want this secured by someone outside our department. Daniel stepped forward. You cannot remove department equipment, Eric looked at him. I am not removing it. I am preventing it from being erased. Laura's voice snapped. No one is erasing anything. Eric turned toward her. Then you will not object to an independent evidence lock. The air tightened. People nearby slowed to watch. Michael exited his hand. Give it to me. Rebecca immediately intervened. No, it should be logged in the presence of counsel. and transferred to an independent custodian. Stephen nodded reluctantly. She is right. Laura stared at him. You are taking their side? There are no sides, says now. There is evidence. Eric held the camera carefully, as if it carried more weight than plastic and glass. Marcus watched the older officer's face. There was fear in it, but there was also relief. The relief of a man who had finally chosen what he could live with. Daniel looked toward Marcus. You do not understand what it is like to make decisions in the field. Marcus met his eyes. Then help me understand. Daniel opened his mouth, but Laura spoke this over him. Do not say another word. Marcus looked from one to the other. There it was again. Control, not truth. Rebecca stepped beside him. We are done here. This time Marcus walked through the doors. Cold wind struck his face. Snow caught on his coat. The sound of traffic rushed around him. A black car waited at the curb. Before he climbed inside, his phone vibrated. A message from his assistant appeared on the screen. The airport board has requested an emergency call tonight. Federal transportation contacts are also asking for a briefing. Marcus read it twice. That culpable appearance had finally become visible. But as he looked back at the terminal, he knew the next step could not be about contracts or influence. It had to be about everyone who entered that building without either. He typed a short reply. Preserve everything, no private deal. Then he got into the car, carrying the suitcase that had never belonged to anyone but him. The emergency call began before Marcus reached home. Snow struck the car windows in thin white lines as Rebecca connected him to the airport board. Anthony joined from another vehicle. Stephen Ward appeared from a conference room at the terminal, with Michael Grant seated beside him. 5 board members filled the remaining squares on the screen. They looked serious now. Not curious, not skeptical. Serious. The chairwoman, Ellen Parker, spoke first. Mr. Bennett, we are deeply disturbed by what occurred today. Marcus watched the city lights move across the glass beside him. How much of it have you reviewed? We have seen several public videos and received an initial report. The initial report written by whom? Ellen hesitated. Airport security. Then you have not reviewed what happened, Marcus said. You have reviewed what the people involved chose to write about it. Silence followed. Rebecca did not interrupt. She knew Marcus was not speaking as an angry passenger now. He was speaking as a man who had spent years examining how institutions concealed failure behind careful language. One board member leaned toward his camera. Mr. Bennett, we want to assure you that the airport has no tolerance for discrimination. Marcus looked at him. That sentence is not evidence of anything. The man sat back. Marcus continued. I was accused without proof. My identity matched the baggage tag. My receipt matched the claim number. Your employee confirmed ownership. Still, I was searched and detained. Then I was offered a false document to sign. Ellen folded her hands. We understand the seriousness, do you? Marcus's voice stayed low, because the first thing your counsel for was a private discussion. Stephen shifted in his chair. We were trying to protect your privacy. No, Marcus said, you were trying to control the exposure. Michael looked down. The board members exchanged glances. For years, they had known Marcus as the founder of Bennett Shield Technologies. He was the man whose company had protected critical systems during ransomware attacks. He was the calm voice they wanted in a crisis. Now he was the crisis they had created. Ellen spoke carefully. What are you asking us to do tonight? Marcus looked at Rebecca. She gave a small nod. First, Marcus said, suspend OS internal destruction schedules related to security video and incident data. Second, place evidence preservation under an independent legal team. Third, remove everyone involved from access to records until interviews are complete. Stephen answered. We have already placed 2 employees on administrative leave. That is not enough. What else do you want? Marcus felt the question harden inside him. Want. As if this were a negotiation over inconvenience. I want the truth preserved before anyone has time to improve it. The board went quiet again. Anthony entered the conversation. We also need every prior complaint involving baggage theft accusations, passenger detention, disputed searches, and claims of racial bias from the past 5 years. Stephen's expression changed. That request is extremely broad. Ellen looked towards Stephen, he said. Can it be done? He rubbed his forehead. Technic, then do it, Marcus said. Another board member spoke. Mr. Bennett, I need to raise the issue of your company's upcoming security audit. We should separate that contract from this incident. Marcus's eyes from this incident. The man looked relieved too soon. Marcus continued. Bennett Shield will not begin the audit under the current conditions. Every face on the screen changed. Michael looked up. The audit is scheduled to begin next month. It is suspended. Stephen leaned forward. That contract supports federal compliance requirements. Then compliance should have mattered when your employees detained me without cause. The sentence landed with no one answered. Marcus had not raised his voice. He did not need to. The power in the call was no longer hidden. His company controlled no police force. It could arrest no one. But Bennett Shield held one of the most sensitive cybersecurity roles in the airport's modernization plan. Without the audit, the airport could face delays, additional federal review, and serious question marks from insurers. The same who understood how much as powerless. Still, he felt no triumph, only responsibility. He looked at the dark reflection of his face in the car window. He looked at the dark Perknoftus face. My company will not be used to punish the public for what happened to me, he said. We will continue emergency support if there is a genuine threat to passenger safety. Rebecca watched him carefully. Marcus continued. But all planned work is paused until there is an independent investigation and a written reform plan. Ellen breathed out slowly. What would that reform plan include? Real standards for detention, clear consent procedures for searches, mandatory verification before treating property disputes as crimes, anti-bias training based on actual cases, not online slides, a system that allows employees to report misconduct without fear of retaliation. He paused in public reporting. Stephen shook his head. Public reporting could expose the airport to litigation. Marcus looked directly at him. The conduct exposed the airport to litigation. Reporting it only exposes the truth. The car turned onto Marcus's street. Through the snow, he could see Danielle standing under the porch light. She wore a heavy coat over her pajamas. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself. His voice softened for the first time. I have one more condition. Ellen waited. No settlement discussion tonight. No confidentiality proposal. No public statement describing this as an unfortunate misunderstanding. Michael nodded slowly. What should we call it? Marcus looked at his daughter through the window. Call it an accusation that was accepted without evidence. Call it a failure of judgment. Call it what your own records prove. The car stopped. Marcus ended the call and stepped into the snow. Danielle came down the walkway before the driver could open his door. She wrapped her arms around him with such force that the suitcase tilted beside them. Marcus held her. Sex, neither spoke. He felt her shaking. I am all right, he whispered. She pulled back and looked at his face. No, you are not. The honesty broke through something inside him. Marcus had spent the entire afternoon controlling his breathing, his hands, his voice, and his anger. He had stood before officers, lawyers, executives, and cameras without allowing himself to bend. Now, under the porch light, he felt the weight of it all. I was afraid, he said. Danielle touched his cheek. I know. He looked past her into the warm house. A lamp burned in the living room. His life waited, they'd simmered on the stove. His life waited, leaves it exactly where he had left it. But he was not the same man who had entered the airport that morning. Danielle took his hand. Come inside. Marcus looked once at the silver suitcase, a simple object. A few pounds of metal, fabric, and clothing. Yet it had revealed how quickly dignity could be stripped away and how many people could help it happen by saying nothing. Inside the house, Rebecca called again. We found something, she said. Marcus stopped in the doorway. What? 3 previous complaints against the same security unit. All involved black passengers. All were closed without outside review. The warmth of the house seemed to disappear. Marcus tightened his grip on the phone. Send them to Anthony. Already done. He looked at Danielle. This was no longer his case alone. The injustice had a history, and by morning it would have nowhere left to hide. By sunrise, the 3 old complaints had become 7. Anthony Carter found them buried under different labels. Passenger dispute, voluntary interview. Property verification, operational assistance. None of the reports used the word detention. None mentioned race. But the details followed the same pattern. A black traveler was accused. Security accepted the accusation before checking the facts. The traveler was isolated, searched, or threatened. Then the incident was closed as a misunderstanding. Marcus sat at his kitchen table while snow gathered against the windows. A cup of coffee cooled untouched beside him. Danielle sat across from him, reading one of the reports on a tablet. The first complaint involved a retired Army nurse named Gloria Ellis. She had been stopped after another passenger claimed Gloria had taken a designer handbag from a lounge chair. The bag belonged to Gloria. Her initials were stitched inside it. Security held her for nearly an hour. The second involved a college professor named Samuel Hayes. He was questioned after a traveler reported a missing laptop. Samuel's computer was a different brand and carried a university inventory label. He was still ordered to unlock it. The third involved a grandfather traveling with 2 grandchildren. An employee accused him of using someone else's first-class boarding pass. His name matched the ticket. His identification matched the reservation. He missed the flight anyway. Danielle lowered the tablet. They knew. Marcus looked at her. Maybe not every person. But the institution had enough information to recognize a pattern, and they did nothing. They renamed it. That was how organizations protected themselves. They changed the language until the harm sounded harmless. Detention became assistance. Humiliation became procedure. Bias became confusion. The doorbell rang shortly after 8. Rebecca entered carrying 2 legal boxes. Anthony followed with a folder under his arm. Neither had slept. Rebecca placed the boxes on the table. The airport sent the first document production. That's fast, Danielle said. It was incomplete, Rebecca answered. Marcus looked at her. What is missing? Radio traffic from the first 20 minutes. The original draft of Laura Mitchell's report. Several hallway camera files, and the access log showing who opened the video system after we sent the preservation notice. Anthony set down the folder. There is more. He removed a printed email. An airport compliance manager raised concerns about the same security unit 11 months ago. She recommended outside training and an independent review. What happened? Her recommendation was denied for budget reasons. Marcus read the email. The language was polite, careful, corporate. No evidence of widespread misconduct. Limited operational value. Potential negative impact on employee morale. Marcus placed the page on the table. They were warned. Rebecca nodded. And now we can prove it. Marcus's phone began vibrating in across the table. News stations, business reporters, civil rights organizations, 2 members of Congress. The video had passed several million views overnight. The most widely shared clip showed Hannah saying the bag belonged to Marcus while Daniel continued the search. The public did not need legal training to understand what it saw. The evidence was clear. So was the imbalance. Marcus declined every interview. He did not want the story reduced to a dramatic confrontation between an entitled white woman. The set. Patricia's accusation had started the incident, but the system had given it power. Patricia's keep attacks it. Without that system, her mistake would have ended at the luggage tag. At mid-morning, Patricia's attorney called Rebecca. Rebecca placed the call on speaker. His name was Charles Monroe. His voice was smooth and measured. Mrs. Whitmore is deeply distressed by the attention she has received. Anthony leaned back in his chair. Mr. Bent was deeply distressed, while being detained because of her false accusation. Charles continued as if he had not heard him. She is prepared to issue a private, written apology. Private to whom, Marcus asked. There was a pause. Mr. Bennett, I'd not realize you were on the call. I am. Charles cleared his throat. My client recognizes that she made an error. Under stress, looked at Danielle. An error, not a choice. Not an accusation. Not a public humiliation. Will she state that she saw my name on the luggage tag and continued accusing me anyway? I would need to discuss specific wording with her. Will she acknowledge that she described my calm questions as aggressive? Another pause. We should avoid language that assigns intent. Marcus's voice remained controlled. Then what exactly is she apologizing for? Charles did not answer directly. Mrs. Whitmore is willing to make a charitable contribution. Rebecca's expression turned cold. This is not a donation opportunity. We are trying to reach a constructive resolution. Anthony spoke. A constructive resolution begins with truth. Charles lowered his voice. Public statements could expose everyone involved to unnecessary damage. Marcus looked through the window at the quiet street. Damage had already occurred. Only now it was reaching the people who once believed they could avoid it. "Tell Mrs. Whitmore I will not accept a private apology," Marcus said. "She accused me publicly. Any correction must be public. That may not be advisable. For her, for all parties." Marcus ended the call. Danielle stared at him. "Do you think she is sorry?" Marcus considered the question. He remembered Patricia's face when her suitcase appeared. The brief flash of shame, then fear. She may be sorry that people saw what she did. That is not the same as being sorry she did it. Rebecca opened the second legal box. "We also received Officer Coleman's body camera footage." The room became still. She placed a laptop on the table and opened the file. The image shook as Eric walked through baggage claim. Patricia's voice came first. "He stole my suitcase." Then Marcus appeared on the screen, standing beside the silver case. His hands were visible. His voice was calm. The recording captured everything. The matching documents. Hannah's confirmation. Marcus refusing consent. Daniel opening the bag anyway. Then Laura's arrival. Rebecca moved forward in the video. Laura stood close to Daniel, believing the body camera could not hear her. But it did. The audio was faint, still clear enough. "Take him out of here before this becomes a scene." Daniel asked a question. "What about the tag?" Laura answered, "We can sort that out in mouth." Marcus felt his heartbeat slow, not from relief, from certainty. Laura had known, she had seen the evidence and chosen removal over correction. The video continued. Inside the hallway, Laura spoke again. "We need his cooperation on supported detention. We cannot have this look like an unsupported detention." Rebecca stopped the recording. No one spoke. Anthony looked at Marcus. "That is evidence of intent to shape the record." Marcus stared at the frozen image of the hallway. For years, people had been told that experiences like this were misunderstandings, that they had misread the situation, that the system was imperfect but neutral. This recording showed something else. A conscious decision. Protect the department. Control the story. Make the innocent person carry the burden. Marcus looked at Rebecca. "File the lawsuit." She held his gaze. "Against the security contractor and the airport authority? And the individuals responsible." Anthony nodded. "What about Patricia? Include her." Danielle reached across the table and placed her hand over her father's. Marcus looked down at their hands. His anger was no longer only personal. It belonged to Gloria Ellis, Samuel Hayes, the grandfather who missed his flight. Every person told to forget what happened because fighting would be difficult. Rebecca closed the laptop. "Once we file, there is no quiet way back." Marcus looked at the snow beyond the window. There should not be. By noon, the complaint was submitted in federal court. It alleged unlawful detention, an unreasonable search, discrimination, false reporting, and a failure to correct known misconduct. The airport released a statement minutes later. It called the incident regrettable. Marcus read the word once, then again. Regrettable, small enough to contain, soft enough to survive. He handed the phone to Anthony. They still do not understand. Anthony looked at the filing confirmation on his screen. They will. Outside, the snow finally stopped. Inside, the case had only begun. The case did not end with a dramatic verdict delivered before a crowded courtroom. It ended the way many real battles for justice end. Slowly. Through testimonies, sworn testimony, video evidence, and months of people being forced to answer questions they had hoped would disappear. Whist de piste. The body camera footage became the turning point. It showed Hannah confirming that the suitcase belonged to Marcus before he was taken into the interview room. It captured Laura Mitchell ordering officers to move him out of public view. It recorded the discussion about making the detention appear voluntary. The airport could no longer describe the incident as confusion. The facts were too clear. An independent investigation was opened. Federal transportation officials requested the full record. The security contractor placed Laura on unpaid leave, then terminated her after investigators found that she had altered language in more than one incident report. Daniel Brooks was suspended and later removed from passenger contact duties. He was required to complete extensive retraining before being censored for reassignment. Eric Coleman kept his job, but he did not escape. Accountability did not. He had recognized that the detention was wrong before Marcus was taken. His detentive sit was taken into the private room. "Why did you not stop it?" Anthony asked. Isaac sat under the bright conference room lights, his hands folded in front of him. Because I was afraid of challenging my supervisor. Anthony waited. Eric looked toward Marcus. That fear does not excuse what I allowed. Marcus said nothing. But he believed the admission mattered. Responsibility was not always loud. Sometimes it began when a person stopped defending the worst thing they had done. Hannah Price became the investigation's most important witness. The airline initially placed her under review for violating communication rules. That decision lasted less than a day. Public pressure was immediate. So was legal pressure. The airline reversed the action, apologized, and promoted Hannah to a passenger advocacy position several months later. Patricia Whitmore resisted longer. Her attorney first described her accusation as a reasonable response to lost property. Then the public videos showed her refusing to check the tag. The body camera recorded her, saying that people like Marcus could not be trusted. Her defense weakened. Eventually, she agreed to a public statement. There was no press conference, no carefully staged embrace. Patricia stood before a camera in her attorney's office and read from a page. She admitted that she had accused Marcus without evidence. She acknowledged that racial bias, how quickly she viewed him as a criminal. She apologized to him, to his family, and to the travelers who had watched it happen. Her voice shook. Marcus watched the recording alone. He did not watch the recording alone. He did not feel satisfaction. He felt tired. An apology could name the wound. It could not erase it. The civil case reached a settlement nearly a year after the incident. The amount paid to Marcus remained public because he refused a confidentiality agreement. But the money was not the most important part. The airport authority accepted independent oversight for passenger detentions. Officers were no longer allowed to search disputed property without consent, a warrant, or to clearly documented legal exception. All baggage ownership disputes had to begin with tag verification. Every detention required a written explanation of the evidence available at the moment the decision was made. Past complaints were reopened. Quarterly reports would be released to the public. The airport also agreed to create a permanent passenger rights office outside the security chain of command. Marcus used most of his settlement to establish Fair Passage, a legal assistance fund for travelers who believed they had been unlawfully searched, detained, or discriminated against. The first person the fund helped was Gloria Ellis, the retired Army nurse whose complaint had been buried. She was 71 when Marcus met her. They sat across from each other in a quiet community center near the airport. Gloria carried the same designer handbag she had been accused of stealing. Her initials were still stitched inside. Marcus looked at her hands. They were steady until she spoke about the interview room. She spoke about the interview. My grandson lives in Arizona, she continued. I missed his graduation because I could not make myself walk through another terminal. Mark felt the truth of the so had to settle inside him again. The harm had never been only about minutes lost. Did anyone ever apologize? He asked. Gloria shook her head. They sent me a letter saying procedures had been followed. They were eyes filled. They were wrong. Her eyes out. I know that now. Fair Passage reopened her complaint. The airport formally apologized and reimbursed her travel costs. More important, a counselor worked with Gloria until she felt ready to fly again. Marcus joined her on that first trip. They walked through O'Hare together on a clear spring morning. Sunlight poured through the terminal windows. Wheels rolled across polished floors. Announcements echoed above them. At the baggage claim, Gloria stopped. Her breathing became shallow. Marcus stood beside her without rushing. Take your time, he said. She nodded. Then she reached for her suitcase. No officers approached, no one questioned her, no one asked her to prove she belonged to something viewable. She looked at Marcus and smiled. It was a small moment, but healing often was. Months later, Marcus returned to the airport for the official opening of the passenger rights office. The silver suitcase stood beside him as he addressed employees, community leaders, and travelers. He did not speak about revenge. He spoke about dignity. Power, he said, is not proven by how quickly we can control another person. It is proven by how carefully we protect people when they have less power than we do. The room remained silent. He looked toward Hannah. Then Eric. Then Gloria. No title should be required for someone to be believed. No wealth should be required for someone to be treated fairly. What happened to me became important because people discovered who I was. It should have been important before they knew my name. That was the lesson the airport could not hide from. Marcus had been underestimated. He had been treated as powerless. But his influence, his company, and his legal team had forced an institution to face the truth. Still, his greatest victory was not the suspended contract or the public settlement. It was using that power for people who had none. When the ceremony ended, Marcus walked through baggage claim alone. The room looked ordinary again. The same lights, the same moving belt, the same sound of suitcases landing against it metal. He placed one hand on the handle of his silver bag and kept walking. This time, no one stopped him, and perhaps that is where real justice begins. Not when one powerful man is finally respected, but when the next person no longer needs power to be treated like a human being. When you see someone being judged before the facts are known, remember Marcus, remember Gloria, and remember that silence can protect injustice just as easily as authority can create it. The question is simple. When the moment comes, will you look away or will you speak?